Hello, 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 Healthy and Whole Marriages family. We are having an awesome night on tonight, and actually a special night on tonight, as we are presenting a singles panel, which we've been asked about before multiple times, but we decided to give you guys an opportunity to talk to the wives of Healthy and Whole Marriages. Real talk, real time, real life, real vulnerable, or as some people may call it, hot topics. So we're going to be honest, open, and transparent as much as we can be. So brace yourselves, because some of us are a little more transparent than others, but that's the point, right? So that you can get what you need to know from this particular journey, right? A lot of people are concerned and wonder, and a lot of people more so than anything wonder, does it work? How does it go on for the long haul? So we're hoping we can add some insight for you guys on this evening. If you don't know who we are, if you don't know who I am Damia Roth. I'm one of the faces behind Healthy and Whole Marriage Conferences. It is a Christian-based organization focused on encouraging healthy and whole marriages and couples to have healthy and whole marriages, healthy and whole families, thereby cultivating healthy and whole communities. We do monthly motivational sessions as well as an annual conference in June. There are a whole lot of other things that we have going on, even behind the scenes right now, that are in the works. So be sure to visit us on www.healthyandwholemarriages.com to learn more information, as well as our platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. You will not regret us sharing the information that we have so that you can be encouraged on your marital journey. Now, at this time, before we start anything, we'd like to start with prayer. So we're going to invite you to join us in prayer before I start introducing you guys to these awesome ladies who I'm already getting tickled by, but you'll understand why probably in just a little bit. So if you would, just take a moment with us to pray. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for this time and this opportunity, God. We thank you for this time, Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern, where we have a lot of things going on, but the women who are taking the time to even visit us on this evening, to even view this particular video later on, so that they may have the insight that they're seeking regarding engagement, regarding marriage, regarding the marital journey within itself. God, we know that you find marriage to be honorable and you bless it. And we hope and pray that whatever we say on today will further encourage that on behalf of these ladies, so that when they decide and when you have chosen for them the time for them to get married, that they know and feel encouraged that they can actually make it work for the long haul beyond the aisle. God, thank you once again for the ladies who are here on this evening sharing and being transparent. In Jesus' name we pray. Thank you, God. Amen.
Amen.
All right. If y'all can hear me okay, I am going to try to do this in alphabetical order. The crazy part is I tried to do it alphabetical order with a post, and then I switched the pictures up. So that should explain to you how the life of a wife, right, goes, because women are multifaceted, being that we try to multitask. And I forgot these girls' names, like somehow put the wrong name with the wrong person. Okay, but I have known them like forever, 20 plus years. And so I think they've forgiven me. So I'm going to introduce you guys first and foremost to, if I know my alphabet correctly, Tamika Hamlin. I was about to give a different last name because I have too many Tamikas in my life, but it's Tamika Hamlin. I have known her for over 25 years at this point. Crazy, 25 whole years. We were freshmen.
First graders.
Okay, that part. And you can already tell where this is going to go. But that's when we met, first grade, freshman in college. I don't care which one you go with. She is currently married. We met, actually, let me back up and say we met at college and we attended Spelman College. I have to say that because there's a thing about the person that she married. He attended Morehouse. So they call it a Spell House marriage, which is a big to do, right? And it's a special thing. And so she married her Morehouse man about 7 years ago. Is it 8 now or 7? 7.5, going on 7.5 years ago. Look at her face, you will be able to tell what all that means. You can tell the transparency that's about to take place. So they are in the midst of 7.5 years, 7 years being an awesome year, right? Let me tell you how awesome it is. She's actually getting ready to have a baby. That's a whole other story. They already have one child and another one's on the way. So that's Tamika. The next person I'd like to introduce you to, which again is over 20 years, is Angela Jackson. She is currently 20 plus, right? 20 plus years married, like 21 years, a whole grown, mature marriage. So y'all are going to get some good stuff from her as well. Met her through Tamika over 20 years ago, and she married her, I'll say, high school sweetheart. You're going to hear the stories behind the two of them and their courtships, their marriages. You guys know a little bit about me already, and I will just chime in if I, need to, I guess, just chime in every now and again, just so that if you don't know who I am, I will be glad to share that with you, and you'll be introduced. Beyond that, this is about your questions. This is about your answers that you need, but more so the questions that have been posed so that you will feel comfortable in your quest for marriage. Real quick, I guess I'll go ahead and say that I am now 15 years married, and Angela has 2 children, an adult daughter who just got married, so she's actually a mom-in-law, and now as well a 9-year-old. He's about to be 10, girl.
Yes,
he for real?
A whole 10, right?
Oh yeah, we gonna
like
be
in a couple months. This is about to be a really big birthday. 10-year-old son. And then, like I said, I'm 15 years in with a 7.5 and a 4.5-year-old boy and girl, because the halves are important. So there you go on that. Now we are going to start, actually, if we can keep it in alphabetical order, and let Tamika start by telling us how you met your spouse. Ding, 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 ding.
So wait, which version? Which version you want?
Oh,
no, I'm teasing.
The clean version.
Well, I ain't never. Let me stop
Go
talking. No, I'm joking. We actually were friends. Well, no, not even. We met as roommates. I needed housing, and there was none on campus, so I ended up like looking at, at the school, they have people have flyers up looking for roommates, saw his roommate was moving, he needed a roommate. And at the time I was like, a male roommate, but that and being homeless, you really ain't got many options. So I went and we met as roommates, and honestly, we were really, contrary to many beliefs, we really were just roommates for a very long time, for years. Because I was young, I met him when I was 19, and he has 4 years on me. So he was 23 at the time. So we're doing our own things, all this other stuff. And it wasn't until probably 2 years that we kind of looked at each other a little bit different than roommates. And without getting too specific right now, because, we had some ups and downs. So, again, we were both quite young. I job opportunities, life change, I moved, he followed, and that's kind of when we took the step of probably getting as serious as we were. He was always there, and we kind of were always together, but there were definitely times where, we kind of had to reevaluate and grow together, which is a little bit harder to do when you meet somebody quite that young. I think all of us met our significant others. I think actually I'm probably the oldest one who met my significant other, actually, because I think you both met y'all before 19.
Yes.
So I can't even think about that. Everywhere I go, I'm the oldest. But anyway, I digress. I'm really been like y'all. If anybody's listening to this, I'm only 32. I was just a genius as a child. So we got together. I moved up from Atlanta up to Philly. He followed me less than a year later and got a job, and we have been, happily together, engaged and or married ever since. So that's really the abbreviated, very PG version.
Love it.
That story.
Love it. Angela, do you want to share how you all got married?
Oh gosh.
How that relationship came about?
Okay, we met at 17, high school sweethearts. Started off rocky, of course. I mean, we were 17. Went through a lot the first 9 years of our relationship. And I just remember speaking to my grandmother before she passed, and she was like, you guys I see you guys being together forever. So what are you guys doing? So, because I really didn't have examples of marriage growing up, too many examples. So marriage wasn't even on the table for me. I wasn't even really thinking about it. And then after my grandmother passed, he proposed, and we were, of course, we were here in Georgia. We got engaged in Georgia, but we came from Mississippi, of course, and we were only here for like maybe 2 years before we got married, and we haven't moved around much in Georgia, so we've pretty much been in the same area in Georgia. And probably 9 years later, maybe, I can't remember how long it was before we got pregnant. Well, we have a daughter from a previous relationship of his. She is pretty much she's 30, so we're 31. We've been together for 30 years. She just got married. She actually has a stepdaughter, so that makes me a grandmother. So and Dawson he'll be 10, and that's pretty much, I mean, I know I skipped over a lot, but I feel like there's so much I can't even remember. But that's the gist of it. We're together, and after 20 something years of being married, we're still praying, still on our knees praying, and praying that it continues to work.
Wow. So listen, this is going to be so much more fun for me because I'm learning more stuff, right? Forget the fact that we've been like 20 plus years in. So this is going to be even more fun because I'm learning and having fun learning. So let's go with some of the things that you guys have said so far. First, the first thing I heard, how long were you guys dating before getting married? So however y'all want to jump in.
It was 9 years for us.
Mm-hmm.
Was it longer?
No, I think for you, no, I think that's accurate. No,
okay, I'm saying for you, was it longer? It wasn't longer than
yes,
that.
yes, ma'am, yes, yeah. But again, we were
young. We were all
those couple of breaks in there, so
right.
So hard to do the math. I feel like I'm doing calculus. Let's just say from the first time we were kind of, youngest, we was boyfriend and girlfriend till the time we got married. Did I get married? Hold on. It was like 15 years. It was like 14, 15 years.
Wow.
On and off.
So yeah, we're like sandwiching because I was 10 years in. So it all just kind of works out. And for us, of course, we started like you guys young too. You already mentioned it, Tamika. I was 17 and Seth was 18. Yes, Seth was already 18. So then the next question, going off of what you guys have already said, examples of marriage. How did that impact? Like, is that why, since you started, Angela, you said because of, am I mistaken, because you didn't have an example or examples or however you put it, and you can elaborate, that's why it wasn't on your horizon?
Yeah, I mean, when I think back to being a little girl, the only thing that was on my mind, I want to be a model. I want to be tall and a model. Getting married was not something that I wanted to do. And I just remember before going off to college, Ernest mentioned it. And I was like, are you serious? Like, no, we can't do that. Like, first of all, we're too young. Second of all, we don't know what we're doing. And third, you have a child. Like, that should be your most important thing. But yeah, he mentioned it and I didn't respond, didn't say anything, and just left it as that, as okay, we never had this conversation. And then a couple of years down, when we moved to Georgia, and my grandmother found out that we moved to Georgia together and was living together, she was like, okay, why are you guys playing house? And she was, and this was probably a year before she passed. And then, we kind of discussed it, and I was thinking, well, I know I don't want anybody else. I don't know what marriage is. I don't know what it looks like. I had the only example of marriage that I remember that I think was great was between my uncle and my aunt. And I just remember them being so close and they would invite us over. They treated us like we were their children, and they used to dance together. They used to sing and just have fun. And they're still married to this day. But I didn't live in the house with them, so I didn't have an example, and neither did Ernest. He didn't have an example. So that really scared me. Like, I don't want to get married and get divorced. I know that I see myself being with you forever, but to me, we've been together for 9 years. That feels like forever. So why can't we continue to do this? But I get it. I mean, I definitely didn't, he wasn't gonna leave me if I didn't get married to him or anything like that. I just was like, okay, if we see each other being together forever, let's see where it goes from here. So yeah, I shouldn't say I didn't have any examples. I just feel like I didn't have the best examples.
Mm-hmm.
So it just wasn't something that I thought about. I wasn't a little girl dreaming about my wedding. Even when I was planning my wedding, I think you guys remember, it was fun because I'm into fashion. I think it was fun, but it wasn't like, I mean, and I was excited and I was happy to marry my husband, but it still wasn't, oh, I have this in line. I have this. I already know what I'm going to do from, most girls who dream about that. But I don't even know, were you guys? Because I feel like we never talked about, like, okay, when I was a little girl, maybe you, Damia, but I just don't remember us sitting around talking about, oh, this is what I wanted when I was little, thinking about getting married when I'm older. I don't remember we've had that conversation. I know I haven't had it with my best friend. She's probably the same way as me, probably worse. Never really thought about it. If it happens, it happens. But I just don't remember us. I feel like maybe Damia, maybe. But to me, I just don't feel like
not as a little girl. Yeah. I like parties. So I used to be like wedding planning, like, looking at the what's that, a wedding story and stuff. So I love watching that. And but I'm gonna do it. But it was very much the party of itself, not necessarily the marriage. I was, I always thought I was gonna have this big, elaborate thing. And end up eloping in Central Park. So a lot of people really salty about that still. But no, like, you're right. Like, not as a little girl, though. As a little girl, I was just looking for the taste of free. Well, look.
The taste of freedom? Did you say the taste of freedom? Wait.
I wanted to taste of freedom. I was up. I promise you, y'all, look, this is so off topic, so forgive me. Because my mom raising 2 girls in New York City. She was a divorce, so we'll kind of get into that in a second. And so obviously she had to be a little, stricter, you got 2 girls. And I remember in my yearbooks, swear hand to God, like I think they give you quotes, mine was free at last, free at last. I was like, I'm out. I'm trying to be in these streets. and so now as a little girl, I don't think I was thought. Yeah, I know.
I'm just kidding.
The Lord is it's funny, Lord. Right. So yeah, I think as an adult, like in my 20s, I used to love those things, but I love parties. Yeah. It was very much the weddings. But as examples, I mean, I have a couple of uncles who've been married for quite a while. My aunt got married again later in life, like our second go around to like her sweetheart from college. My mom and father got divorced when I was young. So it was just my mom, me and my sister in the house. And conversely, my husband's parents have been married forever, like many years. And without getting too much, there's definitely a different, we definitely look at things very differently dynamically, because there's things, whereas I will be like, dude, there are times, look, we ain't even got to go through all this. And his times he's like, what? What's the big deal? Like, we look at things very differently on things when it comes to marriage. We have those different perspectives. And that's definitely been hard to kind of cope with, because I am definitely like, shoot, she did it, I can do it too. say less. Yeah, so we definitely had to kind of merge our 2 different points of views and get to that point in our marriage. But Yeah, no, like you're right. Like again, I love a good show, so I probably can say yes to the dress, say less, girl. You know you
Yes,
wearing that
yes.
dress. That was not for you. Or those are all my shows, but it was definitely very much the day of, and not like that next day that I was focused on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think since you mentioned it, I think I thought about it a couple times, like young. But it was very, very like literally a couple times, very few times while young. And I felt like I had a very good example in my home. My parents were married for double digit years, right? So I'm sitting watching them, and I felt like I had a really good picture of what marriage would look like and should look like. There were many married people in my family as well, and then of course many unmarried people. But I can't say that, and a few of those married aunts and uncles were probably presenting a healthy picture.
Mm-hmm.
But then there were others that were just, it's like, gratefully I had my parents to look at. I'll just put it that way, but right. So, and especially for a young person, not really sure what that's supposed to look like, what to do with that later. It was because of them that at age 10, I already knew I wanted to go get married, but I was never like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a wedding at this time, and it's gonna be in this particular time of year, and I'm gonna wear this dress. The only time I kind of thought about, ooh, what would I look like in a dress for real, was coming to America. When she came down the aisle in that dress, I was like, oh yeah, now that I can live with. Just the look, the ambiance of
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Beyond that, I was always one aspiring to my goals. And I just knew I was going to get married, but I knew I had some other things I had on the horizon and I wanted to do. And they were all just going to happen. And I wasn't going to slow, it wasn't like some girls do nowadays. I got to be married by the time I'm 23 and I have to have a child by the time. None of that, like at all, not even close. So love those same shows, love watching it for the big to do and how pretty things were and the parties and all of that. But I wasn't sitting down writing out none of that stuff and focus on it. So no. So I like the next thing, this is a good question. So it's gonna be based on what y'all said, an A and B type. I'm gonna throw them out. If I need to revisit the question, y'all let me know. It's based on what you guys just said. Specifically, Tamika, talking about merging of two different views, right? Which is what marriage is, like probably your whole life. You're merging two different views because you got two people raised in two totally different households, sometimes two totally different cultures, two totally different perspectives. A lot of times I think we forget that part, right? When couples are going through and think, we're too different. I mean, you're supposed to be, right? Even siblings raised in the same household can be totally different and have different perspectives on life and all of that stuff. So I think that part is natural. So with that being said, acknowledging the different views, different perspectives, the timings that we got married, the fact that you may or may not have had a good example, may or may not have fully desired to get married at one point or another. Why did you get married? Oh.
No.
I think
you go first.
I know, right? I think you said by your grandmother, Angela, and if you want to add to it, you're welcome to. But Tamika sounds like she got some good juicy stuff going on.
Yes, I want to hear her answer.
Yes. Sure, because the stick had a plus sign.
Don't ignore her. Ignore her, lady.
That's what some people end up getting married, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let me back up. Let me clean this up because it's going to be people are watching this. So yes, was that the reason? Let me. That's what it was. That was what made us focus. Like we always knew at one point we are going to get married. It just by the time we did, we owned a home. We had established life. we were doing everything. Like we really were just like, we might as well just go ahead and do this. But we just had nothing to push us along and, you know, call it what it is, the same commitment. And I know marriage changes things, but the same commitment we had before, we kind of had after by this point in our relationship. We were older, more mature, very realistic on kind of what it looks like. That's not to be said. Some things have been misunderstood since then. Clearly, you know, it's an ongoing process. That knowing that we were, you know, bringing a child, we were like, okay, look, we want to be like, have all our ducks in a row with like everything. And like, you know what, if we ever going to do it, it might as well be now. Like, well, what else are you know, you waiting for? You guys, you know, you're practically doing it. Let's just go ahead and have our moment. So it really was, we had absolutely talked marriage before then. I had the engagement ring before then. So that's all that was already kind of, you know, there. It's just like sitting there and planning these weddings I see on TV, just never occurred. And that kind of pushed us to be like, look, we'll have some beautiful fairy tale in the middle of Shakespeare Garden in Central Park, and you know, end up having a party later, which, you know, how it worked out. And that's kind of how we got there. But, and yeah, so I'm just trying to think, like, we needed something to kind of push us. We needed something to like, look, and it could have, that was it. It could have been, honestly, as our family parents got older or getting older and things like that, that may have been, which if this wasn't for that, it probably would have been something like that. It just needed something to kind of help us focus to go ahead and just do it to the next step. I know not as romantic, but you know what? That's life.
Well, it's working. What?
Right.
7 years later?
Man, look.
You did the right thing.
And
We'll
two
see.
children, what you say? Did you have something to add, Angela?
No, I mean, it was, you know, my grandmother putting the idea there, but I mean, the love was definitely there. So it wasn't hard to say yes this time.
Yes, the first time you just looked at him, sir. We did not
Yes,
have this
didn't
conversation.
answer. I pretended as if he wasn't even there.
Cool. How difficult was it for you guys to merge different views, or has it been?
Hard.
That's still happening.
Man, what is
Still
hard?
happening.
And don't let anybody tell you different. It's
Yes.
hard.
And it gets harder with children because
Yes, Lord.
our parenting styles are totally different,
Yo.
completely different. And it's opposite of what we thought they would be. It's opposite of what we thought they would be.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that goes, I mean, I don't think you get past that. You just make it work.
Mm-hmm.
You make it work. You compromise. It's kind of like love language. You just kind of learn to adapt to it, and you know, you make it work. In the beginning, it was extremely hard because we were so young and the arguing was top tier. Oh my gosh. But now it's kind of, you know, we found a happy place, or a place to where we can compromise. We can compromise.
It's definitely a pick your battle situation. You get
Yes.
to age, like, this ain't worth me fighting over. Or conversely, I'm not fighting over this. Like this is a non-discussion. You have to learn how to pick your battle. So you're just like, you know what? There's times I'm sure he thinks I'm completely off the loony bin, and I promise you that I can guarantee you there's times I think the same. Like, how do we get from point A to point B? Like, what direction did you take to get
right?
And I'm sure he thinks the exact same thing about me. I tell people, like, you have to find the things that truly, like, certain things are they're like non-negotiables.
Yes.
I told you that from the start. Like, this is where I am. This is where I stand. We don't have to see eye to eye, but with this, and there's things that you're like, you know what, he feels strongly about certain things, fine. There'll be things in the gray area where there's going to be the compromise, but I mean, neither person is always going to get their way. That's just, you have to know that going in. So, you know, there's going to be those times where you're like, you know, grin and bear it. And, you know, it's definitely, you're right. With kids, it's definitely different, because I definitely have some lines when it comes to mine, like, you know, I don't care whose feelings get hurt. I don't care when it comes to, like, what I feel like, especially when it's like safety or education or, you know, things like that, there is no gray at that point. So we definitely, you know, that took some time. And not saying he wouldn't want the same thing for us, but I'm probably a little bit, Mama Bear is definitely a little bit more ridiculous. Yeah, you just have to kind of, work through it, sometimes talk through it. Sometimes, you know what, the best thing is not to say a word. Daniel taught me this because I'm notorious for like my mouth gets slick real quick. So sometimes like, I'm just not gonna say anything. I'm just gonna be quiet and let you come to realize how ridiculous it sounds.
Just start praying in the middle of the conversation.
Seriously, I'm like, you know what?
Yes.
Not going
I'm just
anywhere.
step on the way.
Yes.
Nervous.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll be quiet as mouse. Like that's that crazy stuff right there. She got too quiet. My mouth quiet. You better be nervous. Sleep with one eye open. So I really have gotten to the point. I'm not gonna argue over this. We're not gonna be arguing. How they say I'm arguing over everything. I'm not doing this. And then you got the kids, so then you're like, okay, I don't want them to grow up saying all you see is mommy and daddy fighting all the time too. So you want to teach them how to kind of have disagreements and always have that in the back of the mind. So that's kind of helped us along, to be honest. But it is ongoing. Please, I don't want anybody to go into this thinking that I don't care how much y'all have in common. I promise you, I don't. Yeah, it's no. I've known many couples who have fabulous. Both of you all have fabulous marriages. I know plenty of couples that have fabulous marriages, and every one of us would have had times we all look. Let me just talk me off the ledge because hold on. Because
especially after the length of time that we've been together.
Yeah. No. Talk me off of pushing him over. That part. It'll talk me out of that part. Not me jumping. I'm not going nowhere.
That's it. That's it right there. Somebody come and save him.
Yes.
Y'all better come get your boy. Come get your boy.
Talk to me.
Come get him.
Call Tyrone.
Yes, that part.
And you're like, oh my gosh, it's an ongoing process. I think it will be to the day we meet our makers. It's just, it's part of the deal.
So you all mentioned the word compromise a few times, and I'll go ahead and stay with that for one more second. A lot of people, singles, and even I guess more of the millennial single people, they act like compromise, and that word submission, right? But compromise is one of those words that causes allergic reaction. Like, what are your opinions about compromise? Had you had that position about compromise in marriage before, like they do now, where compromise, like, why do I have to compromise? What is, I gotta give
I used to be like that. Yeah. I definitely was very, very selfish. It was either my way or nothing at all. That doesn't work, especially when you have a husband like Ernest, who is kind of like, okay, you may think it's your way. I'm going to let you think it's your way, but it's really not your way. So compromise, you have to have it. You can't have a relationship, a friendship without compromise. So I get it. You want things your way. And especially, sometimes we as women, we think our way is always right, but you have to have a compromise, or else you're going to find yourself in arguments every day, even over the smallest little thing. So if you don't believe in compromise, or if you don't want to do compromise, maybe you should stay in the engagement phase for a little while, because you have to compromise. There's just no way around it. There's no way around it.
I think that, look, I definitely am. I'm just opinionated in and of itself. So I'm thinking it's this is logical. When it comes to things, I'm very we're very opposites in that. Like they usually say the woman has all these things running through her head, and the guy's really very black and white. And for us, it's completely opposite. I'm very much black and white, we don't need all this gray. And he's definitely more of let's take the scenic route to get to where we need to be. So for me, I needed to know the things that were my non-negotiables. Yeah. And I don't necessarily think that that's a problem. There's certain things you shouldn't have to compromise on, that are ingrained in you. I feel like you should know them, but it can't be everything. It can't be you have to pick these are the things that are 100% these are my non-negotiables. Mm-hmm. And you know that going in. And then after that, okay, you know what? You may not get your way on everything. And literally, let the small stuff slide. It's not even worth all the extra whatever, little things. Pick your battles, but you have to definitely, you see the background. My way of trying to get rid of my family's failed and they're back in here. But yeah, you definitely have to kind of pick your battles, but and know what you kind of, I needed to have my areas where it was something that I can't compromise on this. Like,
Yeah.
these are the ones that are close to my heart. These are my, ones that I have these beliefs about. Anything outside of that, then we can discuss. And if what do you want to do? Like, how do you see that in X, Y, and Z? The biggest issue we had was explaining how you got there, because that was the big thing. Like, okay, you say you want C, why? Like, explain why. Like, I'm trying to understand your rationale on how you got there. Are you just randomly picking it for the sake of picking it, or was it like a logic behind? Because I feel like when you have those conversations, it helps grow. And I think that has been like a big issue, like in the past for us, like trying to communicate in a way where, okay, now I understand how you got there. I may still not agree with it, but at least I see the logic. And honestly, that works for kids too. Like, tell me, like, what made you think this was a good idea? Explain how you got there. You still in trouble, little kid, but I just want to see what your thought pattern was to get you from here. So that's kind of like the co-compromise for us. Like,
yeah, I love that. I love that. In that you I think very eloquently and practically explain that you have to hear each other's point of view on an issue. That shows the respect on behalf of the marriage itself, right? Ultimately, because whether y'all are going to ultimately agree to disagree or actually agree, you at least are learning more about each other and getting to know each other more by respecting the other person's perspective and their views, so that you'll know, okay, now I know you better on how you may approach this particular situation if it arises or something similar in the future. So I love that. Angela, I think you pulling out all these words. So friendship. How important is friendship? Do y'all believe friendship is in marriage? A lot of times now they're like, I mean, friend, whatever I need a friend for, this is my spouse. Like, I don't understand the friendship part, and not really caring about that friendship part, right? I'm just, let's just get married. Like, I don't need you as a friend. I got friends. I just need a spouse. Where are you guys on that?
I think it's huge. For our relationship, it's very huge. And my lighting is horrible. Like, my lights are on, I promise. But anyway, I just told Ernest to bring something in here but for our relationship, it's very important, because when we first met and thought we were going to start dating, some things happened. He was already in a relationship that I didn't know about. And so but during the little time that we spent together, yeah, you saw how I just stuck that in there. But we were young. But he was in a relationship that I didn't know about. And when I found out about the relationship, I was kind of like, okay, you need to come back to me when you really are single, because this is not what I do. But in the little bit of time that we were together, we formed such a strong friendship that even though we spent months apart, when we came back together, it was kind of like we just looked at each other and started smiling, because that friendship is so important. As to now, sometimes I wonder if Dawson, I think about our friendship and how it is now. I wonder if he really, if it wasn't for us showing affection to each other, I don't think he would think we were husband and wife. I think he would probably think we were just buddies hanging out, because that's just how we are. Like, that's how we are. If it wasn't for the affection, he probably would be like, oh yeah, that's my mom and dad. But no, they're not married. No. Yeah. Because that's just,
they live together.
I think friendship can also overcome a lot of issues that you may have. It helps in that area. It helped with us, especially some of the major issues that we had. You think back to, okay, this is not just my husband, or this is not just my fiance. This is someone that is my friend. And if he or she did do something to hurt me, I know that it wasn't something that, this person really, really loves me. you know, not just as his wife or as as my husband, that they really do care about me. So friendship is so important because friendship brings laughter, and laughter is so important.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever said this to any of my friends, and I'm pretty sure I have. Most of the friends that I am attracted to are totally opposite from me. Like they are the life of the party. They are
Me too.
you know, we
Crazy.
both just can't be sitting there looking at each other bored all day. Somebody has to be funny. Someone has to be adventurous. They're always the total opposite of me because I love to laugh. I love to have fun. And I feel like that's how it should be in a relationship too, you know, that's, you know, to me, that's important in a friendship and it's important in a relationship.
Love it.
So
Love it.
I think friendship is very important because that's where you start. I feel like that's where it should begin.
Yes, I totally agree. Tamika, I've actually said that to several people who just asked me, and I'm like, y'all need to be friends first. Like, you really do need to be friends for the exact same reasons that you just stated. Because there's a different level of care and commitment when the friendship part is an element of the relationship. Tamika, can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, no.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I know, I definitely agree with Angela. I think it's something about being friends, having your little things, your little secret language, whatever between you.
Mhm.
I don't, and I want to say this. I know a lot of people get married and they prescribe like, you know, that's the only friend I need. No,
Oh,
it's not.
No, 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 no,
No, it's not.
ladies,
Like,
no,
and I'm not saying anybody here. I'm just saying, like, I've definitely seen
no.
folks who like have, you know, gotten to that, and like they definitely should be the priority. I get all of that, but
Mhm.
having that friendship with them, but then knowing, you know, I got some other friends too. About to
Yes,
God
you need that sisterhood, please.
yeah, that
absolutely.
will carry you. So I feel like it's definitely a balance. But I feel like that friendship was never true during like when COVID hit and you sitting in this house and y'all looking at each other.
Mhm.
Look, you gotta be friends or you gonna
You
be
have, oh, that's a good point.
what you have to
Wasn't
have
that a
something
good
to do.
tester?
Like if it's like in our house, our biggest like I don't know, so I don't know, hobby is not necessarily the world, but I think like we're really into like the comic book movies, TV shows, all that kind of like all like the whole complete nerdum of it. And but that was like, you know, 2 years of looking at each other. That might have saved us from being like killing because it was like our thing, like that we do, and you know, we make these big grand things about it, and you know, grand Halloweens because of costumes and all that other stuff with it. So we have like these little things that we do, and just having that friendship is something that like silly things to bond over and laugh about and giggle about. Even when you know, like I'll do stuff that I know purposely is going to get on his nerves, but he'll just laugh because you know only you would be silly enough to do something. It's actually funny. It's stuff I'll do that I swear Tori's never seen. That my daughter, and she'll do the exact same thing, and I'll be like, dude, I don't even remember doing this in front of her. Guess you know. Just think, but it's funny. All you have to do is laugh because you have that friend, you have that kind of bond, and like this is the life we live or whatever. But yeah, so friendship is huge, important, but please let it be clear. Make sure you have your sisterhood or whatever that is outside of the situation as well, outside of your marriage. And this respect, you need people who respect your marriage. Let me start there. There still has to be people who respect the marriage and want, you know, support the marriage and all that. But sometimes you just need, for me, I need my girls. Look, when we going out, y'all, when we getting together, I just I just want to be with my girls because you know what? As women, we have common language. We go through very similar situations. We all pretty much have kids relatively close in age. You know, now I'm bringing in the youngin, but we have kids close in age, going through this married life. So it's just people to bounce off. You know, look, sometimes you just need that ear or that shoulder or just that laugh and a good meal with. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Or tears. Or
girl,
venting.
tears too.
Venting.
Or alibi.
That part too. Okay. So next question that's been out there. What are your thoughts on ring size being a determining factor for marriage?
What size? Shoe size?
Ring. Ring size, ring.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just can't hear. You know, pregnancy affects your hearing. Hold on. I was making sure. I was like, sure.
If you don't stop, this is a Christian show.
Yeah, look,
And
what you think you don't do in marriage?
right.
Look, don't let them fool
That's how
you.
she got pregnant. That is exactly how we got our kids. That's true.
Before I got married, probably would have been huge. It was huge. I'm like, I want a nice size, I want this and that. I can't even tell you what my ring is right now.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, my husband put it up for me somewhere in the house. I think, like, you know what? You want, we like pretty things. So if you like pretty things, that's great. But honestly, it should not. It's not nearly as important as everything else.
Yeah.
To have a good man, good communication, good thing. Dude, you can give me let's go to Amazon, get this $7.95 and off the thing, call it a day. At least for me. Now, 10 years ago, I'd be like, I want the Rock of Gibraltar on my left hand. But once you're married, like, it's just so many other things, and especially having families. Excuse me, y'all. Thank you. Having families doing other things, it's just not that big of a deal.
No.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're
allergy
good.
season.
I mean, of course, when you first get engaged,
Yeah.
that it's important then, but I don't know. I feel like since Ernest and I got our tattoos on our finger, before I got this tattoo, leaving the house without my ring was like, okay, if I did, I would have to turn around and get it. Now it's kind of like, I mean, I don't leave it that often, but if I do, it's like, oh, okay, well, I have this, but if he would have said that when we got engaged, oh, let's just get ring tattoos, I would have been like, no, you need to start over.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's kind of like, I love my ring. I really do. I love it. And I wear it all the time. But if I forget it, I just think, oh, well, I have my other ring here.
Other representation.
Yes. I have something. And if he would have said that back in the day, oh, well, at least you have something, I would have been like, oh, no. Do I need to pick out my own ring?
Right. I don't think I've ever really shared this perspective before, and I honestly cannot pinpoint where it came from, other than probably, and this is me kind of just assuming, generalizing, haven't really sat in it. I don't think anything would come from it if I did, but it probably comes from some of the relationships that were sketchy, that I viewed over my life, as well as probably some TV shows, right, like Dynasty and stuff like that, right? Well, I had this theory that I didn't have to have, like, the ring size wasn't a big deal to me. I'm not a blingy person anyway. But separate from that, I had the theory that the bigger the ring, or big rings, something was off. Like, it was one of those overcompensating things. Like, when you think of the shows like Dynasty and stuff, the ring got bigger and bigger every time he messed up. Something popped off, then he came back in the house with a bigger ring. Or how everybody was with, rest in peace, Kobe, with the pink diamond, right? So it was just, for me, I don't know where that foolishness came from. And I don't know. My mom had a small ring, but yeah, that didn't even cross my mind at the time. Like, for me, I just never thought about any of that stuff. I guess I really was focused on, like, my career and stuff, or just accomplishing certain goals, because I'm not easily impressed. That's what it is. Yeah. I think that's what it is. Never mind. Anyway, the point of that particular question, I think, is ultimately, you all have highlighted that it's not about the ring, right? You get caught up thinking it's about the ring. And a lot of people that do and I've seen this in practice, genuinely, a lot of people that do start off with nice size rings that I experienced in practice, the husband wanted the thing later because the marriage didn't last as long, right? And now he's still paying for the ring, or he wants the ring back because the wedding was all right, but the marriage isn't lasting, and they both would have wanted the marriage more than they wanted that size ring. That's the crux of it. So you really are going to want your marriage more than you're going to want that ring.
Yeah.
These ladies aren't skimping on rings at all, on sizes of rings, any of that. They're beautiful rings. But the point that you just heard from them, Angela hasn't been married for 20 plus years because she liked the size of her ring. She just,
Right.
that's just not it. So if you want to be able to do this thing beyond the aisle, you're going to invest in the marriage more than you're going to be invested in the ring. You start off that way. We understand there's no shame in starting off wanting it that way. We just don't want you to have shame in the size of the ring or go for, I have to have, as Tamika said, this particular size of ring to start off with, and you miss the other parts because the other stuff is much more important than the actual size of the ring. So thank you, ladies, for that. I just, thought about that. That wasn't even like, it was just odd for me. I don't know where it came from. Like I said, you answered the friendship question. You answered the ring size. Do you think it's harder for new marriages now due to social media and everything like rings being posted and body shapes and destination weddings or these big, elaborate weddings online? Do you think in general, and, as they say, somebody slipped them a DMs, do you think it's more difficult nowadays for new marriages because of those things?
You know what? Honestly, I feel like they have, maybe you could argue it's easier access, but I feel like you're gonna do what you're gonna do. Because the same way they can slip in your DMs, they were slipping in your IMs. Back in that day, they were in your emails. People, men, women, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. Like, we still had the show. We may not have had like the Instagram part of it. I mean, not saying they weren't around. This probably just wasn't as big, like, at least when I got married. But we had those wedding stories. In TLC, you could sit there starting on Saturday morning to Sunday night watching nothing but weddings and dresses and rings. You could spend your whole weekend doing that. So you still had the same, oh, I want this, I want that, seeing these elaborate things. Maybe it's easily accessible now, but I think the same kind of envy, if that's the word, if somebody may have for it, that then they can have for it now. I think the same temptation they can have for it then, they can have for it now. Because just as for our husbands, I'm sure some females out there who like having like, oh, he's that, settle down type, and you concerned, you put this ring on, and there definitely dudes like, word. Hold on, let me, before you hop down the aisle, let me holler at you real quick. So it's just, I think it's kind of like we can use that as an excuse and let people get their easy out and say, hey, you know what, it was right there. But you gotta kind of take some responsibility and be like, either you ready for this or you're not. Like, it's kind of that to me is kind of like, and it's fine if you're not. Like, if that's kind of where you're still at, hey, no shame, just be clear on where you are. But I don't necessarily think it's just it's harder. I think that it's just different. It's just different avenues for the same foolishness.
Ooh, love it. Love it. Angela?
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I feel like if you're going to do what, if you have it in your mind to do it, you're going to do it. It doesn't matter if someone is enticing you on Facebook or Instagram, or if someone is enticing you at the grocery store. You're going to do it. But I do think, as far as I do think that it does make it easier. I do think that social media makes it easier. I mean, I feel like Tamika said, if they're going to do it, they're going to do it. But I do think that it makes it easier. I mean, and it's one reason why and I probably shouldn't say this, because if you're married, you shouldn't, I'm not one of those people who are, like, don't share a lot, because I mean, I'm not one of those, but I don't share a lot. At first I did. And then I was, I go back to some advice that one of my coworkers gave me when I used to work at the city of Atlanta. And I remember my husband, she was an older lady, and I think about her often. And I remember, Ernest came up and he brought me lunch, and she was like, "That's your husband?" I was like, "Yeah, that's my husband." You know me, when somebody is asking about Ernest, my whole face, my whole body lights up. And she was like, "Oh," she was like, "Well, I'm going to give you some advice from old school. And I've been married for, I don't know." She was like, "Don't ever bring your husband up here ever again." She was like, "If that's your husband, make sure you keep your husband at home." And she was telling me that because just because of what you have, they may not know what's going on
Right.
behind closed doors. He could be doing whatever to you. But just because from the looks of things, and he looks like he is doing right by you, these ladies will eat him up. And I feel like it's kind of the same way, with Instagram and Facebook. People are showing what your husband and your wife or whatever are doing, and that's just an avenue for them to kind of, oh, let me, and it could be someone that's on your friends list. Let me, even though Ernest is not on Instagram, but like with husbands and wives, a lot of stuff you hear, that's where the affair starts. So I'm kind of yes, I'm not embarrassed by my relationship. I'm not going to shy away from sharing things, but I don't share a lot, just because I always think back to her advice. And from that day forward, Ernest never came up to the city ever again. He may have picked me up for lunch, but he didn't walk into that building.
Wow, wow, wow.
And it was just, and to be honest, when I think back to a lot of stuff, when I think back to my time at the city and stuff, and a lot of stuff went on, a lot of stuff did go on, but I think, oh, okay, now I get it. Because I had just started there. I hadn't even been there a month, didn't really know anybody. But once I did get to know people, I was like, okay, I see.
Okay. So let me add on, go further with that particular question. Do you have the same feelings about, like, if you were to visit him on his job? And I'll expound on why that question, the reverse, is in play right now.
Well, I don't know. That's kind of hard for me. I never really thought about it, especially since I can't visit him on his job.
Right.
But
I
I
mean, if
don't
he was
know.
local, would you show up to bring him lunch?
Oh, I think I would. I think I would. And I think back to my younger days. I definitely would, just so
Mhm.
everybody can know. Okay, and then I would have shown up dressed to the nine.
Right.
Like, this is his wife. He's not going anywhere. That was my immature. But I probably would have, and I probably wouldn't have thought anything about it because I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know. I feel like women are a little bit more daring than men, especially here in Atlanta in that aspect. As, okay, I don't care if he is married, I'm gonna approach him anyway, that type of thing. Or it's because he's married,
Right.
I'm gonna approach him anyway. I just feel like women are a little bit more daring to approach a married man than if, and maybe not, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like women are a little bit more daring in that I feel like if I was to walk in Ernest's office, I feel like, and I'm gonna even go with his job. I feel like they already know that's Ernest's wife. Don't touch her. Or even if he hadn't said it, they just know. Okay, if you're Ernest's wife, okay, I'm not gonna touch you. I'm not gonna say anything to you. But what I have experienced, just being in Atlanta, just walking around Atlanta, women are bold. They are bold, and they are like, I don't care. Okay, so I don't know. I just feel like it would be a different feel.
Okay. The reason why I asked, that's one thing I kind of grew up seeing. My mom would visit my dad's job from time to time. Um, and probably I thought the reverse was in play as well, particularly because of what he did. So she was in the school system, and at one point he was delivering to school systems, right? And so my dad would be in the area. It's like, okay, well, he here, like he's supposed to be there. So I don't know, the flip will be in birth would actually have taken place. He later became a fireman, and I know she would visit every now and again up there as well. And particularly what made that stand out for me was that I could tell what it did for him. It was kind of a pride thing to have his wife come up there to see him, spend time with them. I don't think she ever brought lunch, because firemen, if y'all don't know, those jokers can cook. Don't let them convince you otherwise. They can cook, all of them at some point. So she never did that part, but I remember kind of distinctively recognizing my dad having a pride. If we were to ever visit, if we were to visit with her, anything like that, it was, taking pride in his family. And so for me, consequently, that's how I saw, okay, I'm going to visit my husband at work, because it makes him feel good, just like I I assumed it will make him feel good, just like it would do for my dad. And never off point, always dressed to the nines, because just in case somebody needed what's to know going on. Yes, like you need to fully, whether necessarily not a situation of necessarily staking my claim, but you need to know there ain't no joke going on at the house. That's what I need you to understand. There's a full situation, a full package going on, and please be clear. You're gonna have a lot to get through. This ain't just gonna be an easy little feat. So anyway, that's where that question came from. So a few more ladies, and then we'll let you guys go. What piece of advice do you wish you knew before you got married? And I mean, we all dated for several years, right, prior to getting married. But in spite of that, what one piece you probably wish someone had told you that you could share?
You know what? It's several. I can
Okay.
probably write a book. I don't need to, but one of the ones, and I think I first heard it actually from my sister, maybe, or in a conversation with her and some of the friends over there. It was the advice of, don't start something you're not planning on maintaining in your marriage. It's like, so if you're gonna set that I'm newlywed, have dinner ready for you every night and blah, 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 and then all of a sudden you stop, it may be like, don't, like, just prepare yourself, like whatever you do, and not whether you cook for him, maybe you don't, whatever you do, just, set the right, like, just like with kids, you got to set, this is what I'm capable of, this is what I'm not, but don't put yourself in a position where you feel like, okay, like, how did this like all fall on me, like where did we kind of get there? So that, I think that I definitely wish I had adhered to that. I'm trying to think of when. It wasn't before or after actually I heard it, but I think that was like a really solid piece of information.
Love it. Angela?
Okay, can you repeat the question, because I'm still thinking, like,
what hold on, let me make sure I have this.
She lying her man up in there.
Hey, made her nervous, made her shake.
No.
Look, after 20-some years, that's what y'all.
I ain't mad. Look, to each his own.
That's what I'm talking about.
My baby needs a playmate coming up. Go on.
Girl, please stop
it. Okay, so the question is, what piece of advice do you wish you knew before getting married, even after all the years you dated prior to? What piece of advice?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's hard.
You want to think about it?
Yes, I'm drawing a blank. Why am I drawing a blank?
Okay. Let me go back to something Tamika said that I thought was essential, and I guess you could coin this as one piece of advice from me: communication, boundaries. Seth and I discussed, we had a very lengthy premarital counseling session. Our pastor was no joke. So we were, I think, 6 to 8 weeks in premarital counseling. And one of his questions I will never forget, or the session itself required us to sit down, and he had us have a sheet of paper. We drew lines. The square came later, but we just drew lines. and they were representative of boundary lines. So on one side was A, one side, the other side was B. You write your non-negotiables. You write what you can flex on. Everything else was a kind of a go, right? If you do not communicate things up front, these silent expectations that you have, whether you thought of getting married prior to or not, we all have these expectations, right? These, oh my gosh, preconceived notions of how we think marriage should go. And sometimes we don't communicate those things. And the next thing you know, you're fighting about something that you didn't even tell your spouse about. They didn't even know that you were expecting this, that, and the other, because they had a whole other expectation. And then not talking about them will strain the marriage, because you're fighting against each other without even, having the opportunity to sit down and create your own marriage, the one that you want to have. He may not know that you want the trash out every day because he didn't deal with the trash, maybe, or he may want you to clean the kitchen every night, and you're looking like, we didn't do that in my house growing up. And actually the guys cleaned the kitchen at my house, so I'm waiting on you. Like those types of things, as small as that seem and as big. I absolutely am not going to flex on Christmas. It's always a big thing to do Christmas in my family at our house. We're not moving on Christmas. We're going to my folks. Well, he probably feels like, okay, well then Thanksgiving is mine. Wait, hold up. It could be anything, even down to children. You gotta talk about those things. So definitely the communication part, the boundaries, as Tamika called them, the non-negotiables. That way you give each other, I think, a more even playing field where you know what you're dealing with, you know what you're up against, you know what battles you actually have to deal with, and ones that you can just be like, oh yeah, you did tell me about that, no big problem. Wait, you did tell me about that, I'm in trouble. So just that part for me. Did that help you out? We still, you still need
to be honest, my answer is definitely any advice that someone could have given me about communication. Because for us in the beginning, communication was, I'm talking, he's silent, so nothing is resolved. So here we are 30 something years later talking about something that happened when we were 10. So, and that's something we still work on. We probably still need to go to counseling for communication. It's better. It's a lot better. He does communicate, and I wish it would have gotten better before Dawson came into the picture, because that's something that we try to teach him. But that is a good thing though, because our communication is so off with each other. We try to teach Dawson to be a better communicator. I don't know how well we're doing, but I'm hoping that if it doesn't get better between us, that we've taught him to be a better communicator. But it has gotten better, because we are at a point to where, even if it ends, because I know they always say don't go to bed angry and all of that stuff. That's just not realistic, especially in our household. It's just not realistic. Sorry, it's not. I mean, we pray about, and we say we love you just in case something, but there's no such thing. That happens sometimes. So the thing is though, we do try to, even if we don't resolve it, we try to just come back on the same page. When before it could be me, I could go week, 2 weeks, not saying a word. Like, oh, somebody else is in the house. Oh, okay. Seriously. But so it's gotten better to the point to where I don't do that anymore. But yeah, communication is a huge issue in our household. And I don't have a problem with saying that, because I mean, like I said, we do. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I'll think of something that happened when we were 17, 18 years old. And I'm like, wake up. Wake up. Like, we need to talk. And he's kind of like, what? I don't even remember. But yeah, I wish someone would have given us some great advice, because we had premarital counseling too, but it was with our pastor. So with our pastor, it was more about God, which is the most important, because he has to be the center. But there was no counseling about what what else you need to make it work, because yes, God is there, but if the communication is off, we're just two God-loving people looking
Living
crazy.
in the same house.
Yes, so yeah, I wish someone would have given us some good advice on communication so that we wouldn't be almost 50 still trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I think it's good. I saw a movie once, and I'm paraphrasing. Prayerfully, y'all will get the point. Um, the couple was actually so the couple was divorced, and they were getting a divorce like older. So they were well in their 60s at least, with an adult son. And the husband had moved on already. The son, I I don't know which parent, I feel like he told his dad. But anyway, he told a parent, I wished you all had I had been able to see the struggle, because then I would have known that there was enough, I could make it. But
Yeah.
when you don't allow me to see, and then something, the divorce happens, then I'm like, well, I thought we were good, or I thought
Yeah.
things were just horrible, and never seeing the full extent. That his point was, then I know when something comes up for me, then I know it's worth the fight, or I know that I have what it takes, or I can go through it because I watched you go through it. Otherwise, when something hits me, I may not think it's because I never saw y'all deal with any issues. And so, hey.
Yeah, because I'm definitely not one of those people who, I mean, and I get it. You're not supposed to argue all the time in front of your children, but that's not realistic in our household either. We argue because we fought hard before Dawson got here. So how is that just going to end? But what we let Dawson see is, even if we don't mean it, we let him see us resolve it in a way to where he understands it.
Yeah.
It may not be resolved between us, but at least he can see mommy and daddy talking it out in front of him, because I apologize to him all the time for yelling at his dad. So I want him to see us, not every day, not arguing all the time. We don't argue all the time anyway, but if we are in a heated argument and he happens to be sitting in the middle, okay, we're going to argue. And then I let him see at least one of us apologizing or saying, okay, we'll discuss this later. Let's go and do our family thing or whatever, something, so he can see some type of resolve. Right. Because I mean, I'm just being realistic. When I'm arguing, it really doesn't matter who's in the room, because it's not going to go away. That feeling is not going to go away. It's a strong feeling that comes over me, and I have to let it out, and I don't like to yell. But if you're not in the same room with me and we're arguing, I'm going to yell. And most of the time he's not in the same room with me when we're arguing, but you're going to hear my point. But at the same time, I want Dawson to see that, okay, yes, we're not just happy all the time, because that's not realistic either. No, I mean, I know a lot of parents, I talk to a lot of parents who are like that. Oh, we don't argue in front of our children. I just don't say anything because I don't have time for that argument, because that's just not realistic. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think, and actually those people I've come across, some of those children don't have a realistic view of conflict. They don't know what to do with it. And when it arises, it's like, it's either one like full blown out situation, or like they're overwhelmed and like, just, okay, I have nothing. I don't like, I gotta go. Like, I never saw this before. And so this isn't how things are supposed to be. So I need another mate that's never going to have a conflict with me. And that's the part that, so I agree with you there. I love the apology part. I'm trying to think while you were saying, I'm like, have I raised my voice except to where I needed to apologize to the kids? I'm usually the one that's like, I don't mind the disagreement in front of the children because I
Mm-hmm.
want them to see healthy conflict
Mm-hmm.
and resolve. But if I know how this conversation is gonna go, I can reserve. I can reserve, and we're gonna need to talk about, like, just
Talk
know,
about it later.
yeah, just please know it's not going away, because it's not
Right.
gonna go away until we get it settled. But where
Yes.
it's going to go if we keep talking, it's not gonna be healthy for them to see. So I'm gonna need to pull all this, reel it all in.
Yes.
Sir, not right now. Like, that's not what you want to do.
Yes.
Trust me, that's not what you want to do right now. And yeah, no. So I love that. Last couple questions, I think, literally. Oh, no one. Actually, no, you guys have already answered those. So I won't ask you that. You guys already answered those in the, so I think that's a great ending point on that piece of advice question. The other questions y'all definitely answered earlier on in the conversation. So I think that's a great stopping point for us. Let me just double check that I haven't missed any messages with questions, and I can let you guys go. So that of course, thanking you guys, not just you guys, but of course, where I'm talking to Tamika and Angela as well, for being here, taking the time out to share in this capacity. We all, I think, were able to learn just a little bit about each other and share a little bit, which probably means we really need to just go sit down and talk some more. Life happens, y'all, and we just hadn't been able to go and do that. But the truth of the matter is, we are grateful that they were joining us on this evening to share with you guys, and hope you guys saw some good, hot, real life talk and discussion about marriage and how things work. You heard I think a little bit of the good, the bad, the ugly, how we wanted to go and push them off the ledge, and how friendship is a great foundation for marriage. How some of us, I don't think any of us would really like that, oh, I'm dreaming of being married all my life type of thing, but how we've been able to enjoy ourselves in marriage thus far, just the gamut and the questions that you guys have posed to me before now. So we hope that you were able to get some type of enlightenment, some insight on the topic of marriage. If you're thinking about it, if you're currently engaged, or you're just determined you're going to be single, and we just helped you confirm that. There's a blessing in both sides. There's work in both sides. So don't miss that. Yes, there's also work definitely in the side of marriage, because you're dealing with more than one person. But don't ever think, as I think we do nowadays, a lot of times we make marriage seem like absolutely not. And I've heard some single friends say, y'all don't make it look good. Y'all, I mean, what would I be attracted to it for? And I think that's unfortunate. So hopefully you have heard on tonight, realistically, it's life. Just like if you were dating somebody, you're going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly. You're going to want to push them off the ledge every now and again. And then you're going to feel like, okay, we can make it, and we can make it a little bit further. So for that, again, Tamika, Angela, thank you so much for your time, the opportunity together. If there are any last thoughts that you guys want to share before we pray out of this thing on marriage, we're going to also include in our prayer the nice welcome of the new Hamlin coming in very soon. But if there's anything else that you guys would like to share before we close out.
You know what? I will share this. And Damien and I were talking earlier this week. I was reading this article about this young lady whose her boyfriend's family is pressuring her to get married, and she wasn't ready, and they were up in arms. And I think in the article she was like 24. And people mature, they get ready at different ages. At 24, I can promise you that wasn't my age to even be thinking about it. For others, that's what they want. But just be true to yourself and know, like, think past the wedding. I know everybody says that, and make sure you're ready, like, because it's great rewards, but it's a lot of work. It is what it is. Same thing for whether it was a career, whatever. You have to put a lot of work in it to get the reward. So it is a good reward, but make sure you're ready. And if you to Damien's point earlier, she's talking about she had goals she was thinking about and focused on more than the marriage and the weddings. If you have things, it's okay. Like, don't let outside pressures make you feel, oh, well, all my friends are doing, getting married now, I might as well, or my parents got married at X, age, so I should. None of that. You need to be true to yourself, because if you do it and you're not ready, it's just an extra like hurdle for you to climb. Like, it's not going to help anything. So I think that's like my biggest advice for people. Just make sure, like, it's never going to be easy. If you have a friend like it's easy, that get advice elsewhere. Promise you, they're lying. Or they're just glorified roommates. They're not dealing with each other, because it takes work, and it takes, communication, and it takes compromise, and it takes all the things we discussed. So be ready. Know it's hard work. Know it's definitely, rewarding, and, you can have the best times and the best memories and the best feelings, but just make sure you're ready for all that it entails, and have the time to, do you like, and get that out of your system, whatever that may be, whether it's following your career or hobby or whatever that is. So that's just my last 2 cents.
I love it. Angela, anything else from you?
I definitely agree with Tamika. I think the three of us, as far as waiting and taking it slow, we did that, and I feel like it worked for us. And I would say that with anything, just don't rush into it. But another thing, as far as once you do get married, it's so important to just, yes, we're going to grow. Yes, we're going to change. But at the same time, just realize you can't change that person, even if it is your husband. You have to love them where they are. Decide that you're going to love them where they are. Pray, but don't force trying to make them change, because they're going to start to resent you, or you're going to start to resent them. And I'm a huge believer in love languages, and knowing, and it took me a minute to get into it, because I'm just, I'm thinking, okay, this is me and this is how you're supposed to love me. But you can't tell anyone how to love you when you don't know what their background is. You don't know what their love language is. So I think those things are very important. Just don't try to force change on someone, just thinking, oh, we're married now, so now things are going to change. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Or we have children now, or no, it's not going to happen. It's not, no, none of those things is going to change a person. It's probably just going to make whatever happened worse. So just know with relationships, just, you're going to have to, here's that word again, compromise, and love each other where you are. And then as you grow together, I won't use the word change, but as you grow together, then things may change, but you can't force change on anyone. So just remember that when you're in a relationship, whether you're dating or whatever, just know, and also know, while you're dating and being married are two totally different things, especially if you haven't lived with that person. Please know that.
Y'all opened up a new can with that one. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so, well, I'll leave it there. Maybe that's our next session.
Yeah. We gotta revisit that one, because of course, traditionally there was that thing, you don't live with the person. And some people feel like I got to, so I can know what I'm getting myself into. And you all just said, yeah, but that's not the whole story.
Yes.
It changes for sure once you get married. So we're going to put a pin on that topic for you ladies and come back and discuss that next time. I actually feel like I kind of saw like a podcast with them for a second, just having, because that way we don't have to be on camera, right? But we can just have these conversations with you guys, filling in and being honest about what is really going on whenever you guys see fit to check in and check us out. But I can't thank you guys enough, all of you guys, for allowing us to be a part of your marital journey. Tamika, Angela, the new baby coming along, your families, all of those things. Thank you for this time, and just for being here with me, of course. So at this time, we are going to just point out a few little things, housekeeping wise, and then we're going to pray. Again, please visit healthyandwholemarriages.com, where we will have more information coming down the pipe. We're renovating some things so that you guys will have more ways to get the resources you need. But separately from that, we are on social media. We're getting a YouTube channel together for you guys as well so that you're able to access these conversations whenever you want. Visit www.healthyandwholemarriages.com, and we will have more monthly motivation sessions for you guys coming down the pipe soon as well. At this time, we will pray. Father God, in the name of Jesus, we thank you so much for this opportunity, the opportunity to even laugh in the midst of sharing these honest and transparent things that are going on in our marriage. And regarding marriage itself, God, we pray that it was able to enlighten someone who's able to watch or listen to this particular session later at some point, God. Bless them in their mind, body, and spirit, God. Keep them healthy and whole as well, especially in the midst of everything that's going on in their lives. And I pray the same for Tamika and Angela and their families as well. God, at this time, I pray that if anybody is traveling, anybody is doing anything soon, to keep them in perfect peace and keep them safe as well, mind, body, and spirit, and to have a wonderful, restful night on this evening. And for days to come, obviously, because you promised us sweet rest. And until next time, and in the meantime, be healthy, be whole, be blessed is our prayer. Thank you, ladies, so much. You all have a great night.
Bye.
Bye.